Nothing like the sound of your marriage dying while you're elbow deep in transmission fluid. I was under Mrs. Henderson's rusted Toyota when I heard them in the kitchen, my wife Jessica and her pack of hyenas, cackling over their third bottle of wine. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. "You deserve so much better, Jess," came Tara's voice, sharp as broken glass. "Why settle for Grease Monkey when you could have a real man?" My wife's laugh made my stomach turn. Maybe I will upgrade soon. I slid out from under the car, wiping my hands on an oil-stained rag. 38 years old, and I was learning my worth from a bunch of suburban housewives who'd never worked a day in their pampered lives. My name's Mike Thompson, and I own Thompson's Auto in this Rust Belt suburb outside Cleveland. It's not glamorous, but it pays the bills and keeps food on the table. Or it did, until Jessica started hanging with the mean girls from her yoga class. I walked into the house through the garage, boots heavy on the linoleum. The kitchen fell silent when I appeared. Jessica sat at our scratched dining table with her 3 friends. Tara, the twice-divorced alpha who encouraged everyone else's misery. Megan, a social media vulture who filmed everything for her 12 followers. And Lila, the quiet one who smiled too much and meant none of it. "Hey, honey," Jessica said, not meeting my eyes. "How was work?" "Same as always. Fixing what's broken." I grabbed a beer from the fridge, letting the words hang in the air. "What about you ladies? Solving the world's problems?" Tara snorted. "Just girl talk, Mike. Nothing you'd understand." "Try me. I'm not as stupid as I look." The silence stretched until Megan giggled nervously. "We should probably head out, Jess. Early yoga tomorrow." They scattered like roaches when the lights come on, air-kissing Jessica and shooting me looks that could strip paint. After the door slammed, Jessica started loading the dishwasher with aggressive efficiency. "Something you want to tell me?" I asked. "Like what?" "Like why your friends think you deserve better than your husband?" She paused, a wine glass trembling in her hands. "They're just being supportive." "Supportive of what, exactly?" "Nothing, Mike. God, you're so paranoid." But I wasn't paranoid. I was observant. Jessica had been different for months. New clothes I couldn't afford, late nights at book club, her phone glued to her hand like a life support device. She'd started working out obsessively, bought expensive makeup, and worst of all, she'd stopped laughing at my jokes. That night, I lay in bed listening to her breathe, wondering when we'd become strangers sharing a mortgage. Jessica had been beautiful when we met 15 years ago, still was, if I'm being honest. Blonde hair, blue eyes, the kind of smile that made you forget your own name. But somewhere between our daughter Emma being born and life getting complicated, we'd lost each other. Or maybe she'd just outgrown me. The next morning, Jessica left early for another mysterious appointment. I was getting ready for work when I saw her phone charging on the kitchen counter. She never went anywhere without that thing. I shouldn't have looked, but marriages die from 1,000 small betrayals, and I was tired of being the only one playing by the rules. The text message was right there on the lock screen. "Last night was incredible, baby. Can't wait to feel you again. Jay." My hands shook as I set the phone down. Jay, not Mike, not her husband of 15 years. Jay. I drove to work in a daze, muscle memory guiding me through familiar streets lined with split-level houses and dying dreams. My shop sat on the corner of Main and 3rd, a cinder block building with Thompson's Auto painted in fading blue letters. Sam Martinez, my employee and closest thing to a friend, was already there, coffee in hand. "You look like hell, boss," he said. "Feel worse." I unlocked the office and collapsed into my desk chair. "Sam, you ever been cheated on?" His weathered face softened. "Once. Worst pain I ever felt. And I've been shot." "What did you do?" "Got drunk. Got stupid. Got over it." "Why? Jessica stepping out?" I told him about the text, about her friends, about the growing distance between us. Sam listened without judgment, occasionally nodding. "You sure it's what you think?" he asked finally. "Pretty sure. Question is, what do I do about it?" Could confront her, could hire a private investigator, could pretend you never saw anything and hope it burns out. Or, Sam's grin was sharp as a blade, or you could be smart about it. Information is power, Mike. Get the whole story before you make your move. That afternoon, I checked Jessica's car while she was in the shower. The GPS history told an interesting story. Regular trips to an apartment complex across town, visits to restaurants we'd never been to together, long stays at addresses I didn't recognize. One address kept appearing. Riverside Gardens Apartments, Unit 47B. I knew I should confront her, should ask for the truth like a mature adult. Instead, I found myself driving to Riverside Gardens after work, parking where I could see the entrance to Building B. The complex was new, all glass and steel, trying to look upscale but achieving only expensive. I didn't have to wait long. Jessica's silver Honda pulled into the parking lot at 7:30 p.m., just as the sun was setting. She parked next to a black Camaro with racing stripes and vanity plates that read, "Jace hit." Subtle. The man who met her at the door was everything I wasn't. Young, muscled, probably never had grease under his fingernails or a mortgage payment to worry about. He looked maybe 24, with the kind of cocky swagger that comes from never being punched in the mouth. They kissed like teenagers, all hands and desperation. I watched my wife, the mother of my child, the woman who'd promised to love me in sickness and health, melt into another man's arms. Something cold and hard settled in my chest. Not heartbreak, that would come later. This was calculation, planning, the same methodical approach I used to diagnose engine problems. I drove home and waited. Jessica came back at 11 p.m., humming under her breath, smelling like cologne that wasn't mine. She kissed my cheek like nothing had happened. "How was book club?" I asked. "Great. We're reading this amazing romance novel. Very inspiring." "I bet." She went to bed happy, probably replaying her evening with Jace. I stayed up until 3 a.m., making plans. The next few days passed in a blur of forced normalcy. Jessica continued her routine, yoga, lunch dates, mysterious errands. I went to work, fixed cars, and planned my next move. The hardest part was acting normal around Emma, our 14-year-old daughter who was already suspicious of the tension in the house. "Are you and Mom getting divorced?" she asked one morning over cereal. "Why would you think that?" "Because you barely talk to each other anymore, and Mom's always on her phone smiling at it like an idiot. Smart kid. Too smart for her own good." "Your mom and I are working through some things," I said carefully. "But whatever happens, we both love you." Emma rolled her eyes. That's what parents always say right before they ruin everything. She wasn't wrong. That evening, I followed Jessica to Riverside Gardens again. This time, I came prepared. Camera, notepad, and a thermos of coffee for the long haul. I watched her enter the building and settled in to wait. Around 9 p.m., my phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. "Book club running late. Don't wait up." I screenshotted the message, noting the timestamp. Evidence. 2 hours later, she emerged from the building, hair mussed and clothes wrinkled. Jace walked her to the car, and they had what looked like an intense conversation. She seemed upset about something. Trouble in paradise? I followed her home, staying far enough back to avoid detection. She spent 20 minutes in the driveway, probably fixing her appearance and getting her story straight. When she came inside, I was waiting in the living room with a beer and the TV remote. "How was book club?" I asked without looking at her. "Fine. We discussed character development." She paused. "I'm tired. Going to bed?" "Jessica?" She stopped at the foot of the stairs. "What?" "Next time you're going to lie to me, at least make it believable." Her face went pale, but she recovered quickly. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Sure you don't." She climbed the stairs without another word, and I heard our bedroom door close with unnecessary force. I sat in the dark for another hour, thinking about character development. The war began in earnest the next day. I was under the hood of a Chevy Malibu when Tara walked into my shop, designer heels clicking on the concrete floor like gunshots. She wore a smug expression and enough perfume to choke a horse. "Mike, we need to talk." I didn't look up from the engine. "About what?" "About Jessica, about how you're treating her." Now I straightened, wiping my hands on a rag. "How I'm treating her?" "She's miserable, Mike. You work all the time, you never take her anywhere nice, and frankly, you've let yourself go." Her eyes raked over my work clothes with obvious disgust. "A woman has needs? Is that right? Jessica deserves to be happy. She deserves romance, passion, excitement, things you obviously can't provide." The urge to tell this sanctimonious bitch exactly what I thought of her advice was overwhelming. Instead, I smiled. "You're absolutely right, Tara. Jessica deserves better than what she's getting from me." Oh, she blinked, clearly expecting a fight. "Oh, well, good. I'm glad you understand." "I understand perfectly. In fact, I think she should explore her options, really see what's out there." "That's very mature of you." "I'm a mature guy. Tell Jessica I said she should follow her heart, wherever it leads." Tara left looking confused, probably wondering why I'd given up so easily. She had no idea I was just getting started. That afternoon, Sam found me in the office, staring at my computer screen. "What you working on, boss?" Research. Tell me, what do you know about social media? Enough to know it's mostly bullshit. Why? I turned the screen toward him. Jessica's friend Megan has quite the online presence. Look at this. Megan's Instagram was a carefully curated fantasy of yoga poses, expensive dinners, and motivational quotes about living your best life. What caught my attention were the photos from the past few months, Jessica featured prominently, often with captions about girls' nights and supporting each other through changes. She's been documenting Jessica's affair without realizing it, I said, pointing to a photo of Jessica and Jace at a restaurant downtown. Look at the timestamp. Same night she told me she was at book club. Sam whistled low. Social media makes people stupid. Stupid and careless. I've got enough evidence here to prove Jessica's been lying for months. So what's the plan? I leaned back in my chair, considering. Jessica wants better. Her friends think she deserves more. Let's see how they handle the consequences of getting what they wished for. The opportunity came sooner than expected. That weekend was the annual Riverside Community Center fundraiser, a stuffy affair where the local elite gathered to feel good about themselves while writing tax-deductible checks. Jessica insisted we attend, probably because she knew Jace would be there. His gym was one of the event sponsors. I put on my best suit, the one I'd worn to my father's funeral, and escorted my wife to her public debut as an adulteress. The community center was decorated with balloons and banners, filled with the kind of people who thought a $20 donation made them philanthropists. Jessica immediately gravitated toward her friends, leaving me to hover by the punch bowl like a social pariah. I didn't have to wait long for the entertainment to begin. Jace arrived fashionably late, wearing a tight black shirt that showed off his gym-sculpted physique. He worked the room like he owned it, shaking hands and flexing for the older women who giggled like schoolgirls. When he reached Jessica, the temperature in the room seemed to rise 10 degrees. They didn't touch, too public for that, but the electricity between them was obvious to anyone paying attention, which unfortunately was everyone. "Well, well," said a voice behind me. "Looks like Jessica's found herself a new hobby." I turned to see Martha Hendricks, the town's unofficial gossip coordinator. She was smiling the way sharks smile at bleeding fish. "Just being friendly," I said mildly. "Oh, honey, that's not friendly, that's foreplay." Other people were starting to notice, and conversations died as heads turned toward Jessica and Jace, who were now standing inappropriately close by the silent auction table. Tara, Megan, and Lila flanked them like bodyguards, creating a little bubble of conspiracy. I watched my wife laugh at something Jace said, her hand briefly touching his arm. The gesture was small, intimate, and utterly damning in front of half the town. "Mike," Martha said softly, "I'm sorry." "For what?" "For what everyone's about to start talking about." She was right. By Monday morning, the rumors would be flying. Jessica Thompson and the young trainer from CrossFit Elite, poor Mike Thompson, cuckolded by his social climbing wife, but instead of humiliation, I felt something else. Opportunity. I walked over to the group, smiling like nothing was wrong. "Hey, honey, having fun?" Jessica jumped like I'd electrocuted her. "Mike, I was just talking to Jace about fitness programs." "I bet you were." I extended my hand to Jace. "Mike Thompson. I own the auto shop on Main Street." Jace's handshake was firm, his smile cocky. "Jace Morrison. I run CrossFit Elite." "The gym with all the loud music and grunting?" His smile faltered slightly. "We prefer to call it high-intensity training." "Right. Well, any friend of Jessica's is a friend of mine." Tara stepped forward, her expression predatory. "Mike, we were just telling Jace about how hard you work, how you're never home." "Guilty as charged. Someone has to pay the bills." "Jessica was saying she feels neglected," Megan added, phone already in hand to document the drama. "Is that right?" I looked at my wife, who was staring at the floor. "Well, maybe she should do something about that." "What do you mean?" Lila asked. I shrugged. "If Jessica's not happy with what she's got, maybe she should look elsewhere. Life's too short to settle for less than you deserve." The group exchanged glances, clearly confused by my reasonable tone. They'd expected anger, jealousy, a scene. Instead, I was giving them permission. "That's very understanding of you," Tara said carefully. "I'm an understanding guy. In fact, Jessica, if your friends think you deserve better, maybe they should help you find it." Jessica finally looked up, her face pale. "Mike, what are you saying?" "I'm saying you're a grown woman who can make her own choices. If you want something different, go get it. Just don't expect me to stick around and watch." The silence that followed was deafening. Around us, conversations had stopped as people strained to hear our exchange. I could feel the weight of their attention, The collective held breath of a community witnessing a marriage implode in real time. "I think there's been a misunderstanding," Jace said, finally showing some intelligence. "Has there?" I looked directly at him. "Because from where I'm standing, it seems pretty clear. You want my wife, she wants you, and her friends think it's a great idea. So why don't you all stop pretending and be honest about it?" "Mike," Jessica whispered, "please don't do this here." "Do what? Tell the truth? I thought that's what you wanted. Authenticity. Living your best life. Isn't that what you're always posting about, Megan?" Megan's phone trembled in her hands as she realized she was part of the show now. "Look, man," Jace said, stepping closer. "I think you've got the wrong idea." "Do I?" "Then explain the text messages. Explain the apartment visits. Explain why my wife lies about book club while she's actually at your place." The words hit like physical blows. Jessica made a small, wounded sound. Tara's mouth fell open. Even Lila's perpetual smile finally cracked. But it was Jace's reaction that interested me most. Instead of denial or shame, I saw something else in his eyes. Calculation. He was weighing his options, deciding whether to fight or flee. He chose poorly. "Maybe if you were a better husband, she wouldn't need to look elsewhere," he said. The community center went dead silent. Someone dropped a glass in the kitchen, and the sound echoed like a gunshot. I smiled. "You know what, Jace? You're absolutely right. I haven't been the husband Jessica deserves. But here's the thing. Neither will you." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means you're 24 years old with the emotional maturity of a teenager. You drive a Camaro with vanity plates and think protein shakes count as a food group. You're not looking for a wife. You're looking for a conquest. And once you've conquered Jessica, you'll move on to the next bored housewife who mistakes your attention for love." Jace's face flushed red. "You don't know anything about me." "I know enough. I know you're the kind of man who goes after married women because single women your own age see right through you. I know you're probably telling Jessica she's special while texting 3 other women the same lines. And I know that 6 months from now, when the novelty wears off and reality sets in, you'll disappear faster than my marriage did." The truth of my words was written all over Jessica's face. Doubt, fear, the dawning realization that she might have traded a flawed marriage for a fantasy that would never survive contact with real life, but it was too late for second thoughts. "You want her?" I said to Jace. "Take her, but don't expect me to make it easy for either of you." I walked out of the community center with my head high and my dignity intact, leaving behind the wreckage of 15 years and the woman who'd decided I wasn't enough. The real war was just beginning. Monday morning brought the consequences of Saturday night's public execution. My phone started ringing at 6 a.m. Friends, customers, even my mother calling from Florida to ask if it was true about Jessica and some muscle-bound pretty boy. "It's true, Ma," I told her while drinking coffee that tasted like ashes. "That little bitch," she said, and I almost smiled. Mom never liked Jessica, said she had champagne taste on a beer budget. Turned out she was right about more than just the budget. By the time I got to the shop, Sam was waiting with a grim expression and a stack of phone messages. "We've got problems, boss." "How bad?" 3 customers called to cancel their service, said they don't want to get involved in your personal drama. And Tara called to say she's disputing the charges for her brake job last month. I sat down heavily in my desk chair. Of course she is. There's more. Megan posted about the fundraiser on her Instagram, made it sound like you attacked Jessica and her friends for no reason. He showed me the post on his phone. Witnessed the most toxic display of masculine fragility last night. Poor Jessica is finally finding happiness, and her controlling husband publicly humiliated her, praying for her strength during this difficult time. Toxic masculinity, trustee. Support survivors. The post had dozens of comments, most from people who didn't know me but were happy to judge based on Megan's version of events. Survivors? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. She makes it sound like I beat Jessica with a tire iron instead of just calling out her affair. Social media isn't about truth, boss. It's about narrative. And right now, their narrative is winning. He was right. In the court of public opinion, I was the villain. The bitter, controlling husband who couldn't handle his wife's empowerment. Never mind that she'd been lying and cheating for months. Never mind that her friends had actively encouraged the destruction of my marriage. I was the bad guy because I'd refused to go quietly. "So, what do we do?" Sam asked. I stared at Megan's post, reading the comments from strangers who'd decided I was a monster based on a carefully edited story. Then I smiled. We give them exactly what they expect. If I was going to be the villain in their story, I might as well play the part properly. I started with the business. Every friend discount I'd given to Jessica's social circle over the years, gone. The brake job Tara was disputing, I had her signature on the work order and photos of the worn pads I'd replaced. Let her try to explain that to her credit card company. Megan's transmission service from 3 months ago, full price, plus late fees. She'd been paying in installments, but the contract clearly stated that public disparagement of the business voided any payment arrangements. Lila's husband had brought his truck in for an oil change just last week. I'd found a slow leak in his brake line, potentially dangerous, but not immediately life-threatening. I'd planned to call him Monday to schedule the repair. Instead, I sent a certified letter explaining that due to irreconcilable differences with his spouse's social circle, I could no longer provide automotive services to his household. I recommended 3 other shops in town and wished him luck. The letter was professional, polite, and absolutely devastating. Lila would have to explain to her husband why their longtime mechanic had suddenly fired them as customers. But the real masterstroke came Tuesday afternoon. I was replacing spark plugs on a Ford Explorer when Emma walked into the shop, backpack slung over her shoulder and tears in her eyes. "Dad, can we talk?" I set down my tools and led her to the office, closing the door behind us. She collapsed into the client chair like her strings had been cut. "Mom moved out," she said without preamble. "When?" "This morning, while I was at school. She left a note saying she needed space to figure things out." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "Where did she go?" "Tara's house. At least that's what the note said." Emma wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "Dad, what's happening? Why is everything falling apart?" I knelt beside her chair, choosing my words carefully. "Your mom made some choices that hurt our marriage. Now she's dealing with the consequences." "Is it true what people are saying about her and that trainer?" There was no point in lying. Emma was 14, not 4. She'd figure it out eventually. "Yes," I said simply. Emma's face crumpled. "How could she do that to us?" "I don't know, sweetheart. People sometimes make decisions that don't make sense to anyone else. Are you getting divorced?" "Probably." She nodded, trying to be brave. "Will I have to choose between you?" "Not if I can help it. But Em, I need you to understand something. Whatever happens between your mom and me, it's not your fault. And no matter what anyone says about me, I love you more than anything in this world." She hugged me then, fierce and desperate, and I held her while she cried for the family that was disintegrating around us. After Emma went upstairs to do homework, I sat in my kitchen and planned my next move. Jessica had made her choice, and now she'd have to live with it. But her friends, the ones who'd encouraged and enabled her betrayal, they still thought they were safe. Time to change that. I started with research. In a small town like ours, everyone's business was public record if you knew where to look. Property taxes, business licenses, court filings. It was all there, waiting for someone with enough motivation to dig. Tara's divorce records made for interesting reading. Her second ex-husband had accused her of adultery and financial fraud. The charges were dropped as part of the settlement, but the allegations were still there in black and white. Megan's lifestyle brand was built on credit cards and lies. Her Instagram showed expensive dinners and designer clothes, but her business license was 2 years behind on fees, and she had 3 judgments against her for unpaid debts. Lila was the most interesting of all. Sweet, quiet Lila who never said a bad word about anyone. Her husband owned a small construction company that had been cited multiple times for safety violations. More importantly, Lila herself had been arrested 5 years ago for shoplifting at the mall. Charges were dropped, but the arrest record was still there. None of this information was secret. It just required someone with the patience to look for it. I compiled everything into a neat folder, then made copies. Not to use immediately. That would be too obvious. But information was power, and I was building an arsenal. Wednesday brought the first real counterattack. I was closing up the shop when Jace walked in, trying to look intimidating in his gym clothes and protein powder confidence. "We need to talk," he said. "About what?" "About Jessica, about you backing off and letting her be happy." I almost laughed. "Is that what she told you? That I'm not letting her be happy?" "She said you're making things difficult, threatening her friends, trying to turn her daughter against her." "Emma's my daughter, too, and I haven't threatened anyone. I've just stopped pretending everything's fine." Jace stepped closer, trying to use his size to intimidate me. He was bigger than me, younger, probably stronger, but he'd never been in a real fight, and it showed in the way he held himself. "Look, old man, I get that you're bitter, but Jessica's moved on. You should do the same." "Old man?" I smiled. "Jace, I'm 38. That's not old, that's experienced. There's a difference. Ugh, whatever, just stay away from her." "Or what?" He puffed up like a rooster, all chest and no brain. Or I'll make you stay away. You'll make me? I nodded thoughtfully. Tell me something, Jace. How long have you been sleeping with my wife? The question caught him off guard. That's none of your business. Actually, it's exactly my business. See, I'm trying to figure out if you're just stupid or if you're actually evil. Stupid would be falling for a married woman and thinking it would work out. Evil would be deliberately targeting someone's wife to break up their family. I didn't target anyone. Jessica came to me. At the gym? Yeah, at the gym. She was unhappy, looking for something more in her life. And you were happy to provide it. I gave her what she needed, what you couldn't give her. I nodded again. You know what I think, Jace? I think you're a predator. I think you saw a vulnerable woman going through a midlife crisis, and you decided to take advantage. I think you fed her lines about how special she was, how she deserved better, how young and exciting you could make her feel. His face was flushing red. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't I? How many married women have you been with, Jace? How many families have you helped destroy? That's different. How? Because Jessica's different, special. Special enough to marry. Special enough to support when the novelty wears off and she's just another middle-aged woman with stretch marks and emotional baggage. The question hung in the air between us. Jace's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. I thought so, I said. You want to play house with my wife? Fine. But when reality sets in and you realize you've bitten off more than you can chew, don't come crying to me. This isn't over, he said, backing toward the door. No, it's not. But Jace, next time you want to threaten me, make sure you can follow through, because I'm not some suburban housewife you can intimidate with your gym rat routine. He left without another word, and I watched him drive away in his ridiculous Camaro. The boy was in over his head, but he was too young and stupid to realize it yet. That would change soon enough. Thursday morning brought news that made me smile for the first time in weeks. Sam walked into the shop grinning like he'd won the lottery. Boss, you're gonna love this. What? Tara's credit card company called. Turns out disputing that brake job was a mistake. They reviewed our documentation and not only upheld the charge, but they're investigating her for fraudulent dispute claims. How do you know all this? Because she called here screaming about it 20 minutes ago. Apparently this isn't the first time she's tried to dispute legitimate charges. The credit card company flagged her account. I felt a warm glow of satisfaction. What else? Megan's been served with papers. 3 different creditors, all on the same day. Someone must have tipped them off about her social media posts showing expensive purchases while she owes them money. Interesting coincidence, isn't it? Oh, and Lila's husband called. Wants to know if you'll reconsider servicing their vehicles. Apparently the other shops in town are booked solid, and he's got that brake line issue to deal with. What did you tell him? That you'd think about it. I nodded slowly. The pressure was building, cracks starting to show in their perfect little alliance. But I wasn't done yet. Sam, what do you know about social media manipulation? You mean like buying fake followers and stuff? Exactly like that. He grinned. Boss, you're starting to scare me, and I like it. Friday brought Emma home with red eyes and a story that made my blood boil. Some kids at school are saying things, she told me over dinner. About Mom, about you, about our family. What kind of things? That Mom left because you were mean to her, that you're trying to ruin her life because you can't handle her being happy. Emma picked at her pizza, not meeting my eyes. Sarah Mitchell said her mom heard you were stalking Mom and her boyfriend. Sarah Mitchell, Megan's daughter. Of course. Em, look at me. I waited until she raised her eyes. I need you to understand something. People are going to say a lot of things about this situation. Most of them won't be true. Your mom made choices that hurt our family, and now everyone's dealing with the consequences. But did you really follow her? Did you really spy on her? I could lie. It would be easier, cleaner. But Emma deserved the truth. Yes, I did. After I found evidence she was cheating, I followed her to confirm it. I'm not proud of it, but I needed to know the truth. Emma nodded slowly. Are you going to hurt him? The trainer guy? Hurt him how? I don't know. Fight him or something. That's what Jake Morrison said you'd do. Morrison. Same last name as Jace. Jake's related to him? His little brother. He's in my grade. Interesting. The family connection explained how the story was spreading through the school. Kids talk, parents listen, gossip spreads like wildfire. I'm not going to fight anyone, but I'm also not going to pretend everything's okay when it's not. What does that mean? It means I'm going to make sure everyone knows the truth about what really happened. Not Megan's version, not your mom's version. The actual truth. Emma considered this. Will it help? It might, or it might make things worse. But at least people will know who I really am instead of who they think I am. That weekend, I put my plan into motion. Saturday morning, I drove to the community center where Jessica's yoga class met, not to confront anyone. That would be too obvious. I was there to drop off Emma for her volunteer shift at the food bank. Pure coincidence that I arrived just as the yoga class was ending. Jessica emerged with her 3 friends, looking younger than her 35 years in designer workout clothes that cost more than most people's car payments. She saw me and froze. Mike, what are you doing here? Dropping off Emma. Community service hours for school. Tara stepped forward, her face twisted with disdain. You have some nerve showing up here after what you did to Jessica. What I did to Jessica? I laughed. That's rich, coming from you. You humiliated her in front of the entire town. I told the truth in front of the entire town. There's a difference. Megan had her phone out naturally. You're harassing us. I'm documenting this. Document away. Make sure you get the part where I'm standing in a public place talking to my wife about our daughter. Ex-wife, Lila said quietly. Not yet, though I'm sure you're all working on that. Jessica finally found her voice. Mike, please. Can we not do this here? Do what? Have a conversation? I thought you liked public displays. You seemed comfortable enough with them last weekend. Her face flushed red. Around us, other yoga class members were slowing down, pretending to organize their mats while actually listening to every word. That was different, Jessica said. How? Because... She looked to her friends for support, but they were all focused on Megan's phone camera. Because it was. Because you thought I'd just disappear quietly? Because you thought I'd make it easy for you to rewrite history and play the victim? You are making this harder than it needs to be, Tara snapped. For who? For Jessica? For you? Or for the 24-year-old boy who thinks he's ready to play house with a married woman? Jace is more of a man than you'll ever be, Megan said, still filming. Is he? Then where is he right now? Why isn't he here supporting Jessica through this difficult conversation? Why is she still leaning on the same friends who encouraged her to blow up her marriage in the first place? The questions hung in the air like smoke. Jessica looked around at her friends, perhaps noticing for the first time that they were more interested in creating content than providing support. He's at work, she said weakly. On Saturday morning? At the gym? Or does he have another married woman to console? That's enough, Tara said. You're being cruel. I'm being honest. There's a difference, though. I understand why you might not recognize it. I turned to Jessica, softening my voice. Jess, I know you think this is what you want. I know they've convinced you that I'm the problem, that leaving me will solve everything. But what happens when the excitement wears off? What happens when Jace realizes that dating a divorced mother with baggage isn't as fun as he thought it would be? That won't happen, she said, but her voice lacked conviction. Won't it? How well do you really know him? How many serious relationships has he had? How many women has he helped through their divorces? Jessica's face went pale. Stop it. I'm not saying this to hurt you. I'm saying it because despite everything, I still care about you, and I can see this ending badly for everyone involved. If you really cared, Lila said, you'd let her go. I looked at the quiet one, the secret manipulator who'd been pulling strings from the shadows. Is that what you think, Lila? That love means giving up without a fight? I think love means wanting someone to be happy, even if it's not with you. Interesting philosophy. Is that why you encouraged Jessica to cheat instead of trying to fix her marriage? Lila's perpetual smile flickered. I never encouraged anything. Didn't you? All those girls' nights where you talked about how Jessica deserved better. All those conversations about how boring and predictable her life was. All those little comments about how she was wasting her youth on someone who didn't appreciate her. I was being supportive. Were you? Or were you living vicariously through her rebellion because you're too scared to make any changes in your own life? The accusation hit home. Lila's face flushed, and for a moment, her mask slipped completely. You don't know anything about me, she said. I know you've been married to the same man for 12 years and you're bored out of your mind. I know you work part-time at a job you hate because it's safe and predictable. I know you've never taken a real risk in your life, so you get your thrills by encouraging other people to take them. That's not true, isn't it? When's the last time you did something spontaneous, Lila? When's the last time you surprised your husband or yourself? When's the last time you felt truly alive instead of just going through the motions? She opened her mouth to respond, then closed it again. Around us, the other yoga students had given up all pretense of not listening. We had a full audience now. You want to know what I think? I continued. I think you're jealous of Jessica. I think you pushed her into this affair because you wanted to see what would happen. You wanted to live vicariously through her excitement, her risk-taking, her drama. And now that it's getting messy, you're realizing that real life isn't as fun as the fantasy. You're insane, Tara said, but she was looking at Lila with new suspicion. Am I? Ask Lila about the text messages. Ask her about the late-night phone calls where she convinced Jessica that her marriage was hopeless. Ask her about the dating apps she helped Jessica set up before she even met Jace. Jessica's head snapped toward Lila. What is he talking about? Nothing. He's just trying to cause trouble. Dating apps? Jessica's voice was barely a whisper. Lila, you said those were just for fun. You said it was just to see what was out there. It was just for fun. Then why didn't you tell me you were setting up your own profile too? The silence that followed was deafening. Lila's face went white, then red, then white again. How did you? She started, then stopped. I smiled. Small town, Lila. People talk, especially when someone's husband finds dating apps on her phone and starts asking questions around town. The bomb I'd just dropped exploded in slow motion. Tara and Megan turned to stare at Lila, who looked like she wanted to disappear into the yoga mats. Is that true? Jessica asked. Were you cheating too? It's not the same thing, Lila said desperately. I never actually met anyone. It was just exploring options. While you were telling me to leave my husband? Jessica, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. Jessica's voice was cold now, the warmth completely gone. You were using me as your guinea pig. You wanted to see what would happen if someone actually went through with it. That's not... Yes, it is. Jessica looked around at her friends, seeing them clearly for perhaps the first time. You all were. None of you cared about my marriage or my happiness. You just wanted entertainment. She turned and walked away, leaving her friends standing in the parking lot like actors who'd forgotten their lines. I watched Tara leave, her threats empty. Justice, but no joy. Sunday, Jessica called, voice broken. We met at home. She confessed friends manipulated her for their agendas. Lila's vicarious thrill, Tara's bitterness, Megan's content. Jace ghosted when reality hit. I want to come back, fix us, she begged. Too late. You destroyed trust, lied, hurt Emma. I forgive, but can't forget or rebuild. We agreed on mature co-parenting. She left in tears. Monday, fallout. Megan's Instagram purged for fake followers, now at 300. Tara fired over drama posts. Lila's husband divorced her after finding dating apps. Jessica moved to Akron. Friends abandoned her. No satisfaction, just loss. Emma and I found peace on the porch. Relieved it's over, she admitted. Honesty now. 6 months later, Jessica's letter. In therapy, rebuilding, wants more time with Emma. I replied positively. I'm dating Carol, shop thrives, I'm a local legend. Tara in Florida, Megan at call center, Lila ride sharing. Best revenge, moving on, building better. Emma and I are.